The research station floated silently above the red deserts of Karath, 9. Its metallic walls hummed softly as the night cycle lights pulsed, casting long shadows along the narrow hallways. Inside one of the labs, Draven sat alone, checking readings on a small holographic panel. His eyes were calm, focused, but alert. He had been trained for situations most humans would flee from, though right now the danger had not yet arrived. A sudden tremor shook the floor. Draven did not jump. His hand moved slightly toward the panel, ready to activate the emergency barriers. Then came the sound, a low resonant growl followed by a heavy thud against the lab's reinforced doors. The predator had arrived. It did not enter quietly. The massive door slammed open, swinging on its hinges, and a creature stepped into the lab. Its skin was dark and scaly, reflecting the light in streaks like molten metal. Muscles bulged under armored plating along its chest and shoulders. Glowing amber eyes scanned the room, each movement precise, calculated, lethal. Its claws scraped the floor with a metallic ring that echoed across the room. The aliens who had sent this creature would have called it the perfect hunter. But Draven did not flinch. He stood slowly, his movements smooth, unhurried. His eyes met the predator's without fear. The creature paused, tilting its head as if confused by the human's calmness. Predators did not pause. They did not hesitate. They did not respect humans until now. Draven's voice broke the silence, calm and cold. "Not mine." The predator stopped. Its claws dug slightly into the floor, but it did not advance. It tilted its head again, nostrils flaring, tasting the air. It was used to fear, used to prey, trembling, running, screaming. But this human, nothing. No fear. No panic. Just a quiet, sharp focus that made the predator hesitate. Draven moved a small step to the side, hands relaxed at his sides. He did not reach for a weapon. He did not raise his voice. He simply observed, reading the predator's behavior. His training told him that the creature would react to dominance, not threat. It wanted to test control. It wanted to see submission. The predator growled again, a deep, rumbling sound that shook the lab's walls. Its claws scraped along the floor as it stepped forward, but Draven stayed still. Calm, measured, unshaken. He could feel the predator's tension in the air, like static electricity before a storm. Outside the lab, the observation deck's glass showed the aliens whispering in their native tongues. They had never seen a human behave like this. Most humans would have screamed, fled, or drawn a weapon. But Draven's quiet composure made the predator falter. The aliens' excitement began to turn into fear, a realization that perhaps their creature was not as invincible as they believed. Draven's mind worked quickly. He remembered his training, how to read instincts, how to influence behavior without confrontation. The predator was programmed for attack, but attack required predictability. Humans were unpredictable. That was the key. He took a slow, deep breath, letting his presence fill the room without aggression. He made no sudden movements. No sounds. Nothing that the predator could latch onto. The predator's head swiveled, amber eyes narrowing. It stepped closer, claws clicking against the metal floor, yet Draven did not move. It expected the human to react, to fear, to fight, to run, but none of that came. Felt strange. Confusion mixed with aggression, and the predator did not like it. Draven spoke again, softer this time, almost a whisper, "Not mine." The words hung in the air like a shield. The predator froze for a moment, muscles tightening, jaws opening slightly as if testing a sound it could not understand. It had been trained to destroy, to dominate, to kill. And yet, this human, this single being, held no weapon, no shield, no force, and yet the predator could not move. It could not act. Time stretched. The humming of the station seemed louder now, echoing in the predator's ears. Its growl became a low snarl, frustration building. Draven's eyes remained locked on its amber gaze. He was aware of every twitch, every flick of its tail, every flex of its claws. The predator tested him, circling slowly, claws scraping the floor, but Draven's body remained calm, controlled. A slight shift in the human's stance and the predator adjusted. A tilt of his head and the predator paused. Draven was teaching it without speaking, showing boundaries without aggression. His mind raced ahead, planning the steps he might need if things escalated, but he hoped they would not. Humans could survive in ways aliens could not predict. He intended to prove that. The predator's growl softened, a warning mixed with curiosity. It stepped back slightly, unsure. It had never met a prey that refused to play the game. That hesitation was enough. Draven's cold, quiet assertion of independence had stopped the predator in its tracks. It had expected fear, obedience, surrender, but there was none. Outside, the alien scientists were silent. Their whispers stopped. Their perfect weapon, their ultimate predator, was uncertain. It was as if the predator's instincts had collided with something it could not understand, the mind of a human. Draven exhaled slowly, keeping his posture relaxed. The predator remained still, amber eyes fixed on him, measuring, learning. He had not moved an inch, yet he had won the first battle. Not with weapons, not with strength, but with calm, cold resolve. Humans had a strange power. They were not predictable, not easily owned, not bound by instinct alone. Then, almost imperceptibly, the predator stepped back fully, as if acknowledging an unspoken rule. Draven did not celebrate. He simply stayed calm, his eyes never leaving the creature. This was only the beginning. The predator would test again and the humans would face worse dangers. But for now, in the silent lab on Karath 9, a single human had stopped the galaxy's deadliest hunter with nothing but his mind, his presence, and 3 simple words: not mine. Draven turned slightly, already planning his next move. The predator watched, tense but restrained, unsure if it could proceed. Outside, the aliens began to realize that humans were not what they expected. They were something more, something dangerous in ways the galaxy had never seen. The night continued, red light spilling across the station walls. The predator had entered, but it would leave differently than it came. And Draven knew, quietly, that the human advantage was not in weapons, strength, or numbers. It was in control, intelligence, and fearlessness. The lab was still, silent except for the low hum of the station. The predator studied, the human watched. In that quiet standoff, the rules of power had already changed. The galaxy would learn, eventually, that humans could face any predator, and win. Draven walked through the quiet halls of the research station. The predator stayed in the lab, its amber eyes still glowing, watching him. The air was heavy with tension, but Draven did not rush. He had survived situations like this before. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, but that was part of their advantage. As he moved, his mind drifted back to his training. Draven had grown up on a distant planet at the edge of human colonies, where danger was constant. From an early age, he had been taught to stay calm under pressure, to read others, creatures, humans and aliens alike, and to use intelligence over strength. Most humans would panic in the presence of a predator, but not him. His mind had been sharpened like a blade, trained to anticipate every possible move. Draven entered a small private chamber, where old data records and training files were stored. He touched the screen of a hollow panel, bringing up images of predators, their instincts, and their weaknesses. The files were forbidden, marked only for elite human operatives. He studied them carefully. The predator in the lab was not invincible. It had patterns, limitations, and fears, some subtle, some deep. Humans could see what aliens could not, and that knowledge gave them power. A soft vibration on the floor announced movement. Draven did not need to look. He already knew the predator had shifted position. He could feel it through the energy of the room, the small changes in temperature and pressure. Humans had senses that could detect things others ignored, trained to notice patterns in chaos. Draven smiled faintly. Most creatures attacked without hesitation, relying on brute force. He relied on observation, patience, and control. Memories of his childhood flickered. His father had taught him to remain unshaken, even when facing wild beasts on their homeworld. Fear is a weapon you give to others, his father had said. Control your mind and no one can control you. That lesson had stayed with him, shaping him into a human who could stand against predators without weapons. It was not arrogance. It was preparation. Draven moved back toward the lab, calm steps echoing softly. The predator had noticed him and was now circling the room again, slower this time, more cautious. Draven did not react. He knew that any sudden movement could trigger aggression, but patience could disarm even the deadliest hunter. Humans had survived against creatures far stronger, faster, and more dangerous, not through strength but through strategy. The predator stopped near the center of the lab and lowered its massive head. It sniffed the air, tasting Draven's calm. It could not understand why this human did not fear it, why he did not react as prey normally would. Draven took a measured step forward, not aggressive, not submissive, but firm. The predator tilted its head, sensing the human's confidence, and something in its instincts wavered. Draven's mind worked quickly. He remembered that the predator reacted to signals of ownership. Creatures like this were trained to follow commands or attack designated targets. They sensed control and weakness and they exploited both. But Draven was not owned. He belonged to no one, feared nothing, and that independence confused the predator. He allowed the words to form again, calm but firm, not mine. The predator growled, low and hesitant. It circled once more, slower, almost respectfully. The aliens observing from outside were silent, unable to comprehend how their ultimate weapon could be stalled by a single human. Draven's secret was not in his strength or tools, it was in his mind. He understood fear, control, and instinct in ways the predator could not predict. Humans were unpredictable, and that made them dangerous. Draven moved closer, slow and steady. He knew the predator would attack if it sensed aggression or weakness. He did not give it either. He reached out a hand not to touch but to test the creature's reaction. The predator did not lunge. It froze, muscles tensed, sensing the calm assertion of dominance without threat. Humans had mastered the art of controlling situations without violence, and this was one of those moments. Outside the lab, alien observers whispered in disbelief. Their predator, engineered for destruction, had never hesitated before. It had no reason to pause, and yet it did. The human had discovered the creature's limits, exploiting patterns and instincts that the aliens had overlooked. Draven was small, unarmed, and yet the predator deferred to him. That was the essence of humanity: brains over brawn, patience over panic, and courage over instinct. Draven thought ahead. The predator would not forget this encounter, and neither would the aliens. He needed to prepare for their next move. Humans were survivors because they adapted, learned quickly, and acted strategically. He began running scenarios in his mind, predicting the predator's reactions and planning responses. The predator may be stronger, faster, and more dangerous, but it was not clever. Draven had something the galaxy underestimated: human intelligence and discipline. Suddenly, the predator shifted slightly and Draven froze. He had sensed the change before it happened. The creature tested him again, moving its claws in a slow, deliberate pattern, almost like a challenge. Draven's heartbeat remained steady. He did not flinch. He raised his voice slightly, calm and controlled, "Not mine." The words echoed through the lab, repeating a silent boundary. The predator hesitated again, instinctively respecting something it could not comprehend. Draven realized something important. Humans were unpredictable, but they also projected confidence and control in ways predators could not ignore. Even without weapons, humans could assert dominance and set rules for engagement. The predator understood strength, but it respected control. That was the human secret: power without aggression, strategy without force, courage without fear. For a moment, the predator paused completely, standing in the center of the lab, amber eyes glowing but still uncertain. Draven stepped forward again, slow and deliberate, each motion measured. He was not challenging it, but he was not submissive either. The predator sensed his resolve. It realized that attacking would be foolish, not because Draven was strong, but because he was unpredictable and unowned. The aliens outside watched in stunned silence. Draven's calmness, his patience, and his ability to read and control the predator had turned the situation in his favor. This human had a secret the galaxy would soon learn. Humans could survive against monsters engineered for destruction, not through strength but through their minds, training, and courage. Draven exhaled slowly, letting the tension drain from his body. The predator remained tense but stationary. He did not celebrate. He did not move quickly. Humans never wasted energy. They waited, observed, and struck when necessary. This encounter was only the beginning, but Draven had proven a point. The human secret was not weapons, not speed, not strength. It was control, intelligence, and courage. The lab was quiet again, save for the hum of machinery and the predator's low growl. Draven stood in the center, calm, confident, and ready. The galaxy would test humans in many ways, but he knew that their greatest weapon was their mind, and their ability to face fear without trembling. And this predator had learned, silently, that humans were not to be underestimated. Draven turned and walked toward the door, still calm, still controlled. The predator watched him, unsure. Outside, the aliens whispered urgently, realizing that humans were not simple prey, they were a force the galaxy could not easily dominate. And Draven knew, quietly, that the human secret would continue to guide him, protecting him from the deadliest creatures in the universe. The lab was quiet now, but the tension remained thick in the air. Draven stood near the center, calm and still, his amber eyes meeting the predator's glowing gaze. The creature circled slowly, claws scraping the metal floor, its head low but alert. It had not attacked, yet it had not retreated either. Every inch of the room seemed charged with silent energy, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Draven knew the predator was testing him. It wanted to see a reaction, a hint of fear, a twitch that would give it a reason to strike. But he did not move hastily. He had learned long ago that sudden movements gave power to predators. Patience, observation, and control were stronger weapons than any blade or gun. Humans had survived because they could read situations, predict behavior, and act only when necessary. The predator slowed its circle, muscles flexing under armored plating. Its amber eyes flicked constantly, measuring, calculating. It hissed softly, low and threatening, but Draven remained unmoved. He shifted his stance just slightly, enough to keep his balance, enough to show awareness but not challenge. That tiny motion alone made the predator hesitate, unsure if he was a threat or prey. Outside the lab, alien scientists observed through reinforced glass. They whispered urgently among themselves. Their ultimate predator, their weapon against any species, was paused. It had never hesitated before, never questioned a target. And yet here it was, locked in a silent standoff with a single human. Draven's calmness, patience, and subtle movements had thrown it into confusion. Draven's mind worked quickly, analyzing the predator's every gesture. He noted the tilt of its head, the subtle shift of its weight, the twitch of its tail. Each movement told him something about its intentions. The predator relied on patterns, instincts drilled into it by alien training. But humans were unpredictable, and Draven exploited that unpredictability. He adjusted his breathing, slowing it deliberately, projecting calm and control. The predator growled again, low and hesitant this time. It lunged slightly forward, testing Draven's response. He remained still, letting the movement pass without reaction. The creature froze, claws digging slightly into the floor, unsure if it should continue. Its instincts told it to attack, but another part of it, deep and primal, sensed something unfamiliar. The human would not play by the usual rules. Draven took a measured step forward, careful not to provoke aggression. He could feel the predator's tension, the barely controlled energy ready to explode. Most humans would have panicked, running or screaming. Most would have drawn weapons. But Draven had no need for weapons. His training, his intelligence, his discipline, all of it was enough to hold the predator at bay. He spoke softly, almost a whisper, his voice calm but firm, "Not mine." The predator froze completely. Its glowing eyes blinked once, twice, trying to interpret the words. The sound was strange, but it carried authority. The predator could sense the meaning. This human was not prey, not property, not to be owned. There was no fear in the words, no hesitation. That clarity and confidence made the predator doubt itself. Time seemed to stretch. Draven held his ground, not blinking, not shifting unnecessarily. The predator circled again, slower this time, testing boundaries. It flexed its claws, scraping the floor lightly, and hissed, but it did not strike. Draven's calm presence acted like a barrier, an invisible shield that the predator could not penetrate. The human's advantage was not physical. It was mental, strategic, and instinctive. Draven understood fear, dominance, and submission in ways the predator could not. He knew how to project control without aggression, how to influence the predator's behavior without weapons, without touch, without threat. That was the power that aliens often underestimated. Outside, the alien observers whispered nervously. They realized that humans were unpredictable in ways their creatures could not comprehend. This was not just a standoff, it was a demonstration of a human's ability to survive through intellect and control. The predator, no matter how strong, no matter how lethal, was now uncertain. Its instincts conflicted with what it sensed from Draven. Draven took another step, deliberate and slow. The predator mirrored him in a way, shifting slightly but maintaining distance. They were testing each other, but the human held an invisible edge. He projected dominance without aggression. The predator sensed it, and confusion built within it. Predators were trained to follow fear and submission. Draven offered neither. A low hiss escaped the predator's throat, almost a warning, almost a question. It stopped moving altogether, standing tensely in the center of the lab. Draven raised his hand slightly, not in challenge but in acknowledgement. The gesture was calm, confident, and deliberate. The predator's instincts flinched, uncertain how to respond. Draven knew this moment was critical. In a few seconds, the predator could choose to attack, retreat, or continue testing. He remained still, letting the creature decide. Humans survived by patience, by waiting for the right moment, by letting their intelligence shape events rather than brute force. He had no doubt that the predator's hesitation was the beginning of a shift, an acknowledgement that humans were not easily dominated. Minutes passed in near silence, broken only by the hum of the lab's machinery and the predator's low, tense growls. Draven remained calm, steady, aware of every detail. The predator circled once, slowly, its movements precise but cautious. Then it stopped. Amber eyes met Draven's gaze directly, and something unspoken passed between them. Respect or perhaps realization. The predator understood instinctively that this human was not to be underestimated. Outside, the aliens watched in stunned silence. Their whispers had stopped. Their creature, trained to destroy, to dominate, to kill without hesitation, was paused by a single human. They began to understand that humans' power lay not in size, not in strength, not in numbers but in courage, intelligence, and unpredictability. Draven was demonstrating that principle with every controlled step, every calm breath, every quiet word. Draven took another step forward, closer but careful. The predator mirrored him, tension coiled in its muscles. Then, slowly it stepped back slightly, a small retreat, acknowledging the boundary Draven had established. The human had not moved aggressively. He had not threatened. Yet the predator recognized his control. For the first time, the predator seemed uncertain of what to do next. Its instincts had been challenged by a human mind it could not read, a human presence it could not predict. Draven smiled faintly, though his expression remained calm. This was how humans survived. Not by strength alone, but by knowing themselves, knowing their enemy and controlling the battlefield with intelligence. The lab remained quiet. The predator's amber eyes followed Draven's movements, calculating, learning, but restrained. Draven's calmness, patience, and understanding of predator instincts had won the standoff. He did not celebrate. Humans did not need to. The lesson was clear. Intelligence, control, and courage could stop even the deadliest creatures. Draven exhaled slowly, letting the tension drain. He had survived the first standoff. The predator remained tense but stationary, aware that humans were different, unpredictable, and dangerous in ways the galaxy often ignored. Outside, the aliens whispered urgently, realizing that their ultimate weapon had met a force it could not easily conquer. The room was silent except for the humming of the station and the predator's low growl. Draven knew this was only the beginning. The standoff had ended in his favor, but the galaxy was vast and humans would face many more predators. Yet he was confident. Humans survived because they were clever, fearless, and unpredictable. And today one human had proven that lesson once again. The predator stood frozen in the center of the lab, its amber eyes following every small movement of Draven. It had circled, tested, and hissed, yet the human had not wavered. Draven's calm presence and measured steps had disarmed it in a way nothing else could. For a predator trained to hunt and destroy, this was a revelation. It had never met prey like him before. Draven remained still, observing the creature closely. He knew that the predator was intelligent, but its instincts were rigid. It expected fear, submission, or aggression. It did not expect a human to face it without panic, to move with calculated calm, to project control without weapons or force. That unpredictability was his greatest advantage. Suddenly the predator emitted a low growl, deeper and more complex than before. It was not just a sound of anger but confusion. Its body tensed as if it were struggling to process something it had never encountered. Draven tilted his head slightly, not out of fear but observation. The creature's hesitation revealed its mind, chaotic, primal, but now questioning. Draven spoke softly, almost a whisper, letting the words carry with authority, "Not mine." The predator froze completely. Its muscles stiffened, and its claws scraped the floor lightly before stopping. The words, simple as they were, carried meaning. They told the predator that this human did not belong to anyone, that he could not be claimed or controlled. That simple statement, delivered without fear or challenge, broke the predator's expectation. Outside the lab, alien observers whispered urgently. Their predator, engineered for conquest, was unable to act. It had met a human who refused to follow the rules of prey and dominance. The aliens began to realize that humans were dangerous in ways their creatures could not calculate. Humans had something they lacked: intelligence combined with fearlessness, unpredictability combined with control. Draven stepped forward slowly, each movement deliberate. He did not strike, he did not threaten, he simply moved with confidence. The predator's amber eyes followed, tense but cautious. Its instincts screamed at it to attack, but logic, or some sense deeper than instinct, restrained it. The predator had learned a new rule: humans were not to be controlled easily. He paused in front of the creature, close enough to be sensed, but far enough to avoid provocation. His gaze was steady, unwavering. The predator's muscles flexed, its tail flicking, claws scraping lightly, but it did not advance. It had encountered fear, panic, and aggression in countless prey, but this human had none. That lack of fear, that cold calm, was unfamiliar and unsettling. Draven spoke again, calm and firm, "Not mine. Leave it." The predator blinked as if considering the words. Its instincts conflicted with what it sensed. It had been trained to attack without hesitation, yet here was something stronger than instinct, something it could not understand. Draven's presence, his calm dominance, and his refusal to react as prey were shaping the predator's behavior. The standoff was no longer about strength, it was about control. The aliens outside watched with growing alarm. Their ultimate hunter, their engineered weapon, was being pacified by a single human. They had created creatures of strength and aggression, but they had underestimated humans' intelligence. Draven was proving what the galaxy often overlooked. Humans could challenge the deadliest predators not by force but by mind and courage. The predator moved slightly backward, lowering its head in a gesture that seemed almost respectful. Its growl softened into a low rumble. For a moment, it seemed to be thinking as if it could comprehend the human's mind. Draven's training had taught him that animals and creatures, even alien predators, respected control and clarity. By remaining calm, by asserting boundaries without violence, he had forced the predator to reconsider its actions. Draven stepped even closer, measuring each movement. He knew the predator could strike at any moment, yet his confidence never wavered. Humans had survived countless dangers across the galaxy because they understood that control over fear and situation often mattered more than physical power. The predator's uncertainty was a sign that humans had learned a lesson the galaxy had ignored for centuries. The predator finally exhaled slowly, a sound more of acknowledgement than aggression. Its amber eyes softened slightly, and it shifted its stance. The creature was still dangerous, still lethal, but it had paused, it had listened, and it had learned. It understood, in some instinctive way, that this human was not prey and could not be dominated. Draven allowed a small smile. He had not attacked. He had not threatened. He had simply stood his ground, observed, and projected calm authority. The predator had learned a critical lesson. Humans were not to be underestimated, and fear could not always be relied upon to control them. Outside the lab, the aliens whispered in shock. Their predator, which had crushed countless enemies and dominated countless prey, had been stopped by one human. They realized, suddenly, that humans were a species shaped by survival, intelligence, and courage. They were not just physically weaker, they were mentally stronger, adaptable, and unpredictable. Draven's mind worked ahead. He knew the predator would leave, but he also knew the aliens would try again, sending creatures, weapons, and strategies. Humans could not rely on strength alone. They relied on intelligence, observation, and calm resolve. That combination made them formidable, and it had just been demonstrated in the lab. The predator moved back further, finally retreating toward the entrance of the lab. It stopped at the doorway, its amber eyes fixed on Draven one last time. The creature had not been defeated by strength. It had been stopped by the human's calm, control, and refusal to be owned. That was the revelation. Humans had a power no alien weapon could easily measure, no predator could easily overcome. Draven watched as the predator disappeared into the shadows of the station corridors. The air relaxed slightly, but tension lingered. The aliens outside stared in silence, recognizing something they had long ignored. Humans were dangerous, not because they were the strongest or fastest but because they were intelligent, fearless, and unpredictable. Draven exhaled slowly, feeling the first real release of tension. He knew this was only the beginning. The predator had learned to respect him, but others would follow. Humans would face stronger enemies, faster creatures, deadlier predators. But he was confident. Humans had survived for countless generations in the harshest environments across the galaxy. They had always relied on the one advantage no predator or alien could take away, the human mind. The lab returned to quiet, filled only with the hum of machinery and the faint sound of the predator retreating in the distance. Draven straightened, adjusting his stance, calm and ready. He had proven a point: humans were not prey. Humans could control fear, control predators, and survive where others would fall. The galaxy had underestimated them for too long, but today one human had revealed a truth too important to ignore. Draven turned toward the door, leaving the lab behind. The predator had retreated, but the revelation remained. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were a force that combined intelligence, courage, and calm resolve in a way the galaxy had rarely seen. And that knowledge, that quiet confidence, would guide them through challenges far greater than any predator lurking in the shadows. Draven walked calmly through the corridors of the research station. The predator had retreated, but its presence lingered in the air like a warning. The station was silent now, except for the soft hum of machinery and the distant sound of alien voices whispering in confusion. They could not understand what had just happened. One human had stopped the galaxy's deadliest predator without firing a weapon, without raising a hand. Draven paused near a viewing window, looking out at the red deserts of Karath 9. The planet stretched endlessly, barren and dangerous, yet alive with possibilities. Humans had survived in harsher worlds, faced threats stronger, faster and deadlier than this predator. What made them dangerous was not just strength. It was their mind, their courage, their ability to remain calm when everything else demanded panic. He thought back to the standoff in the lab. The predator had circled, hissed, flexed its claws, yet it had not attacked. Draven had simply stood his ground, measured his movements and projected calm authority. 3 simple words had stopped it, "Not mine." They carried more than denial, they carried the human spirit. Humans could not be owned. Humans could not be predicted. That unpredictability was their weapon. Outside, the alien scientists whispered nervously. They had created predators to dominate, to instill fear, to crush any resistance. But humans did not respond to fear like other species. Fear could not control them. Strength could not dominate them. Only humans' intelligence, courage, and composure could influence them, and that had just been proven. Draven turned away from the window and walked toward the main control hub. He needed to ensure the predator did not return without warning. Humans were cautious, prepared, and strategic. Every move he made was deliberate. Every decision considered multiple possibilities. That was how humans survived when others fell. He accessed the station's monitoring system, reviewing all corridors and labs. The predator had retreated to the outer chambers, still tense but no longer aggressive. It had learned respect. Predators, even the deadliest ones, recognized control, boundaries, and calm authority. Humans had mastered these qualities over generations, and Draven embodied them perfectly. A soft alarm sounded, drawing his attention. It was a signal from the observation deck. The alien scientists were communicating urgently, their panic evident. Draven did not react outwardly. Humans did not waste energy on fear. He calmly adjusted the controls, ensuring security protocols were in place. If the predator attempted another approach, it would be monitored and contained. The predator remained visible on the surveillance screens, pacing slowly, cautiously. Draven studied its movements, noting patterns and reactions. The creature had adapted, but humans adapted faster. He considered how the aliens would react next. They would likely send stronger, faster, or more aggressive predators, assuming they could overwhelm humans with force. But humans did not rely on force alone. They relied on intelligence, strategy, and observation. Draven's mind raced through possibilities. He imagined scenarios with multiple predators, with alien soldiers, with traps and weapons. In each one, humans had an advantage. Their greatest weapon was their unpredictability, their ability to control fear, and their capacity to think several steps ahead. No predator, no alien, no force in the galaxy could match that combination. He exhaled slowly, allowing himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The standoff had ended, not in chaos, not in destruction, but in a subtle, quiet victory. The predator had been stopped. The aliens had been proven wrong. Humans were more than prey, they were survivors, strategists, and warriors in their own right. Draven moved to the lab doors and opened them carefully. The predator remained outside, still tense but observing him. Its amber eyes flicked toward him, and for a moment, there was understanding. No attack came. The predator recognized that humans were not to be dominated, and it had learned to respect boundaries. Draven nodded slightly, acknowledging the lesson learned on both sides. The aliens outside were silent, their whispers replaced by awe and concern. They had underestimated humans for centuries. They had believed that strength, fear, and training were enough to control the galaxy. But humans had a force they could not calculate: intelligence, courage, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. That force had just stopped the predator dead in its tracks. Draven returned to the control hub and secured the lab. Every door, every sensor, every monitor was checked and confirmed safe. He knew the predator could return, but he also knew that humans would be ready. They did not rely on luck or hope. They relied on preparation, observation, and discipline. And that was why humans survived where others failed. Hours passed quietly. The predator finally retreated fully into the shadows of the station, leaving Draven alone. He walked through the lab, checking equipment and making sure everything was functional. There was no celebration. Humans did not need applause. Survival itself was the reward, and proving that humans could stand against the deadliest predators without fear or weapons was victory enough. Draven paused near the window again, looking at the planet below. The red deserts were silent, but he knew danger lurked everywhere. That was the life of humans. Survival required intelligence, courage, and calm resolve. They faced threats far greater than predators, yet they thrived. They adapted, learned, and overcame. The predator would not forget this encounter, nor would the aliens. Humans had shown that even the deadliest creatures could be stopped by presence, intelligence, and courage. That quiet victory would spread across the galaxy, teaching those who underestimated humans that they were not prey, they were a force to be reckoned with. Draven exhaled one last time and turned away from the window. He walked through the lab, calm and steady, ready for whatever came next. Humans had survived for countless generations in hostile environments, facing dangers that no other species could endure. They had survived through intelligence, courage, and discipline. The predator had entered the room, expecting fear and submission. It had met calm resolve and intelligence instead. It had been stopped by a single human's presence, his words, his patience. And that was the true power of humans. Not weapons, not speed, not strength, but mind, courage, and control. Draven's quiet victory was complete. The predator had left, the aliens had learned a lesson, and humans had proven once again that they could survive where others could not. Across the galaxy the message would spread: humans were not prey. Humans were clever, fearless, and unstoppable in ways no predator or alien could predict. He walked down the corridor, calm and prepared, knowing the galaxy would continue to challenge humans. But they had the advantage that no other species had: intelligence, courage, and control. And with those qualities humans would always endure, always adapt, and always win. The station was quiet. The predator had gone. The aliens had witnessed humans' quiet power. And Draven, a single human in a vast galaxy, had proven what humanity had always known: that sometimes quiet courage was stronger than any weapon, and calm intelligence could stop even the deadliest predator. Humans' quiet victory was complete, and the galaxy would never forget it.